On the 1st of November 2021, a high-rise building under construction collapsed on Gerrard Road in Ikoyi, a wealthy neighborhood in the heart of Lagos. The collapsed building was part of 3 towers being built by the private luxury developer Foursquare Homes. As of 9th November 2021, the Lagos state government had confirmed that 43 people have died and there were 15 survivors rescued during recovery operations. Femi Oshibona, the owner of Foursquare Homes, was one of the fatalities. Recovery operations remain ongoing, but the nature of the collapse leaves little cause for optimism because the incident appears to be what construction experts call a pancake collapse. A pancake collapse happens when flawed load-bearing capacity at lower levels of a building cause the structure to give way, and the top floors fall vertically onto the floors below. The way the floors fall looks like a pancake stack. Pancake collapses leave very few voids to support pockets of space and air in the rubble that survivors would need to survive. The Lagos state government also announced the setting up of an independent panel to probe the conditions surrounding the collapse of the building and make recommendations on ways to stop reoccurrences. Building collapses are a fairly common phenomenon in Lagos. In August of this year, a study by Olasukanmi Habib Okunla, a DAD Climap Africa postdoctoral fellow at the Global Change Institute of the University of the Witwatersrand, reported that 115 mostly residential buildings collapsed in Lagos between 2005 and 2016. The data presented in the research showed that the highest number of building collapses in Lagos occurred in 2011, 2012, and 2019, with 19, 14, and 17 buildings being affected respectively. This shows that there is a pattern. While we have reason to blame developers for substandard construction that puts people at mortal and financial risk, the larger focus must be on the regulatory failure that lets it happen. The collapsed high-rise building was a luxury development that had flats going for $1.2 million. Ikoyi and Lekki house prices have risen rapidly enough to have some asking if a housing market bubble might be in place. While it might look like a bubble, it's actually a cocoon that investors feel could protect their wealth from an inflation rate that gallops like a prized racehorse. A lot of these properties are invested in as stores of value rather than as income-generating schemes. They deserve protection regardless. Nigeria's home ownership rate currently stands at 25%, which is remarkably lower than those of Indonesia, Kenya, and South Africa at 84%, 73%, and 56% respectively. Economic difficulties already exist that limit Nigeria's housing supply, and a regulatory system that fails to provide adequate protection for lives and financial investment is going to hurt the real estate market and leave the Nigerian economy worse off than it already is. Rising demand for housing interacting with the relatively inelastic supply of housing has led to high prices. In 1960, Lagos had an estimated population of 800,000. Lagos's estimated population figure today is 21 million. In 1991, Nigeria had a housing deficit of 7 million units. That number is now estimated to have risen to between 17 and 22 million units. The World Bank believes it would cost about 59.5 trillion naira, about $145 billion, to take care of. To bridge this gap, we need to build 700,000 houses yearly over the next 20 years, but current production is estimated at only 100,000 new houses annually. The Nigerian government does not have the money to spend on real estate, so the right regulatory environment must be set up to create a vibrant real estate market anchored on local and international private sector investment. The housing study also showed that the majority of the building collapses affected multi-story housing, which will affect confidence and investment in mid-rise and high-rise building development. This could also limit the growth of housing supply, as people will shun multi-story buildings that would greatly boost housing supply in highly urbanized and densely populated areas with high land cost. The impact of low housing supply cannot be underestimated. The cost of buying or renting accommodation affects the price of everything else, so unbearably high rent prices play a key role in determining poverty or prosperity levels. High-rise buildings offer a good way to increase housing supply without increasing land supply and achieve a drop in real estate prices. This makes it important for the government to have rigorous regulatory checks and the infrastructure to support these developments. It is also important for government policy to be designed in a way that will stimulate affordable housing construction to bridge the housing deficits in the country. As of 2015, the housing policy of the federal government, as articulated by the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, consisted largely of the government spending approximately 360 billion naira annually to deliver about 17,760 houses. However, this falls far short of the required annual housing need to achieve housing for all Nigerians. Another shortcoming of the policy is that it does not take into cognizance how schemes such as the National Housing Fund, as well as private sector participation, will make up for the shortfall that the government cannot meet. It also does not define what it determines to be affordable or low-cost housing, especially as the average cost per house in its estimates are around 20 million naira. Assuming government puts interest rate for the houses at 9.5% per annum for a period of 10 years, that will come to a monthly repayment of 260,000 naira. With mortgage being no more than 20% of monthly income, this means only Nigerians that earn 1.3 million naira net pay monthly will be able to afford this scheme. This puts the scheme out of the reach of those intended to be the beneficiaries of such a scheme. A housing policy that will make it more feasible to meet the housing target should explore how to channel portions of existing pension funds of individuals as well as their contributions to the National Housing Fund to make a sizable down payment on houses in the direct intervention scheme or the private sector-led schemes when the minister creates the framework for them to work. It should also recognize that housing planning is not merely about building apartments, but holistically opening up new areas through building infrastructure and also decongesting other crowded areas through the same means.